Talk a little bit
They
about the
wanted to hear.
impact of Bob Luman on you.
Oh well, the first time I met Bob was at that club I was playing in Chicago, a place called the Lake and Park Inn. And Bob, at that time, Bob didn't have a band. There was a lot of those artists would come through and they didn't have a band, so our band would
Hmm.
learn their songs and back them up. But Bob came through one night, and I mean, he was an entertainer. I mean, nobody was better than him.
Hmm.
He did impersonations of other singers, and it was total showbiz. And he was a great singer. But he came in and uh, that would have been probably 68, something like that, 69 maybe. And I decided around 70, 71 that I wanted to move to Nashville and see what I could do down there. And another guy that I had met in that club up there was named Johnny Carver, who was he never really had a bunch of big hits, but he was a really good performer, a good singer, a good guitar player. And I played with him. He would get gigs all over the country a week at a time, and he would call our band up there, and we'd meet him, and so we kind of got on the road with him.
Okay.
You know, very just every once in a while. But the day that my first day I came to Nashville, I called Johnny up and told him, I said, "Hey man, I've moved down here and I'm gonna see if I can find a job playing bass with some of these guys." He said, "Funny that you say that." He said, "I was just over at Columbia Records where he and Bob Luman were both artists on
Okay.
Epic." And he said, I ran into Bob Luman over there, and Bob told me his bass player had just quit, and if I knew of anybody to call him." So he said, "I'll call Bob when I get home and uh, tell him about you." And he did, and he called me back. I was staying in a hotel up there here in Nashville, and Bob called me back and said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Well, nothing." He said, "I'm gonna have my guitar player pick you up and bring you out to my house, and we'll do a little audition. We'll play some of my songs and see how it goes." And I said, "Oh, great."
And you've already played
So
for him somewhat in Chicago, right?
just
At
one
this point.
one just one time,
Right, right. That's
but
kind of a replacement band just because he was in town.
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't have a band at that
Right.
time,
Yeah.
but he had put his band together, and so anyway, his guitar player came by and picked me up and drove me out to Hendersonville to Bob's house, and when he saw me, he remembered the place in
Wow.
Chicago,
Okay. Very
you
cool.
know, and so we played 3 or 4 songs, and he said, "That's all I need to hear. You got the job." And then he said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Well, we're playing the Opry." It was that was when I auditioned was a Thursday night.
Oh my gosh.
He said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He said, "We're playing the Opry," and
Learn the songs.
he had a brand new song that I'd never heard before, and I was scared to death.
Imagine.
But he hired me, and uh, I'd been out there with him 3 or 4 weeks, and the drummer that he had decided he didn't want to do it, and he quit. So Bob was trying to scramble his mind and think of somebody to play drums, and I said, "Let me call my buddy in Chicago." So I called him up. He drove down to Nashville in a day or two, and hired him. So
Nice.
half of our Chicago band ended up being in Bob's band
Very
down
cool.
here, and we were with him about 3 or 4 years.
So, what was the impetus to go into Nashville? What was the plan or the goal? Was it to be just a bass player in a band, or were there higher aspirations involved as well?
At that time, all I wanted to do was play music,
Yeah.
play in a good band with a bunch of great players, and I got lucky enough to have that happen. The guitar player that was with Luman was an incredible guitar player. He and I left Bob at the same time, and his name is Steve Smith, and Steve left and started playing in a club downtown. And we were buddies with Larry Gatlin.
Okay.
We were all just kids back then.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry came in, or one night he asked me if I knew where Steve was, and so I told him where Steve was playing, and he went and saw Steve, and he hired Steve, and Steve's been with him since then. That was in
Wow.
1976.
Wow. So 50 years almost.
He's still with him. I saw him last week.
Wow. Amazing stuff.
But
So when did songwriting start becoming important to you?
I started writing songs or just kind of messing with it a little bit while I was on the road with Bob Luman.
Okay.
Just because I long bus rides and doing nothing, and I was really doing it just to pass time and because it was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I had no expectations of anything happening with any of my songs at all. But
And,
after I left Bob, I took a gig in a club here in town, and I didn't enjoy the music we were playing at all. But I had continued to write songs, and my songwriting was getting a little bit better every time.
did you
And
have at that time? Did you have mentorship or in your writing, or were you just kind of like you said, just to pass the time?
I was just going. I was just doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody telling me what I was doing wrong.
Right.
But I was playing this gig, this club gig. This was in October of 1976, and